Hi guys. So, giving you this Edpuzzle on chapter one because, as you can hear in my voice, I am not feeling well and I am not in school. So, I really wanted you guys to get through chapter one because we need to get into this novel and get right to it. So, if you read or if you read the entire beginning part, there are some important things that you should have highlighted, okay? You should have gotten a couple of characters already. So we've got someone called My Brother Jem. So that is obviously the narrator's brother. And something happened to him when he was 13. His arm was badly broken at the elbow. Excuse me if I cough during this video because I am not well. This video is going to be long, guys. I should warn you about that right now. So you may want to pause it periodically and go back to it if you don't want to sit through the whole thing. I do expect to see these highlights on your copy when I am back in school. All right. It talks to us about more of the injury and about what happened with his arm. But we're trying to figure out what led to this accident, okay? So the events leading to his accident. The narrator, obviously you can tell in the voice the narrator is a woman, so we can assume that the narrator is a girl. She believes that the Yules, that's a family name, were the ones that started everything. But Jem, who is 4 years her senior, that means that her brother is 4 years older than her, thinks that it started long before that. He thinks that it started the summer that Dill came to us. Dill is another character. Dill was the one that gave them the idea to have Boo Radley come out. So there right now we've gotten a whole bunch of new characters. So I'm going to jot here on the side. Characters. We've got the narrator, who's a girl. We've got Jem, her brother. We've got Dill, who seems to be maybe a friend. And then we've got Boo Radley, who we don't know who he is yet. All right. We know that Jem hurt his arm when he was 13. We know that narrator is 4 years younger than Jem. Let's see. And this is people they blame for Jem's broken arm. Okay? And so then she goes on to talk about, and this is the part that gets a little confusing. She's like, well, if you're going to say that, then it really began with Andrew Jackson. And you guys know Andrew Jackson, history-wise, okay? But this is back when Andrew Jackson was a general. It says, well, if General Jackson hadn't run the creeks up the creek, Simon Finch would never have paddled up the Alabama. And where would we be if he hadn't? So this is just some history reference, okay? That's dating back to how her family got to where they are. History reference. Okay? We were far too old to settle an argument with a fistfight, so we consulted Atticus. Our father said we were both right. So now we've got another character, Atticus, our father. So now we've got Jem and narrator's father is Atticus. Lots of people introduced right here in the beginning, okay? Being Southerners, so now we know that this all takes, even though we knew that it took place in the South, but now we have confirmation there, all right? It was a source of shame to some members of the family that we had no recorded ancestors on either side of the Battle of Hastings. Again, this is another historical reference, okay? They're talking about how their family was not involved in this battle. right? This is their ancestor, Simon Finch, okay? Simon Finch, a fur-trapping apothecary from Cornwall. Cornwall's in England, okay? All right? He decided to leave England because he was being persecuted. If you know historically, immigrants, that's why they left England. They left Europe because they were being persecuted, all right, for religious reasons. So they decided to come to the United States, to the new land. And so that's basically what they talk about. That he called himself a Methodist and he worked his way across the Atlantic to Philadelphia. And then he ended up here in Mobile and up to St. Stephen's, etc. Okay? So this whole part right here, so if you want to put something down, let's see. I need a little symbol. Here we go. This whole thing right here gives us history of narrator's ancestor, so to speak, okay? Simon Finch. Now we're going to find out who this ancestor specifically is, okay? It tells us how he established his homestead on the banks of the Alabama River and that he only left to go get a wife at some point, okay? So we know where he established himself. Sorry, guys. Established a homestead on the banks of the Alabama River. Again, I said this video is going to be long, so if you want to take a break, by all means, go for it. It was customary for men in the family to remain on Simon's homestead. So this was the custom in the family, okay? So that anybody that was a man that was part of the Simon Finch family, right, stayed on Finch's Landing. So the assumption is that the family last name is Finch. So let's see. All men part of Finch family were expected. My goodness. Sorry, guys. To stay on Finch's Landing. Okay? That was just what was expected. All right. This bottom part right here just continues to talk about how all his descendants kept doing that all up until the point of the 20th century. That's the 1900s, okay? When the narrator's father, Atticus Finch, went to Montgomery to read law. So again, remember, men were not supposed to leave Finch's Landing. They were supposed to stay there, but her father decided to do his own thing, and he went to Montgomery to read law, which means he went to go become a lawyer. So, narrator's father leaves Finch's Landing to become a lawyer. Okay. And then it goes on to tell us that his younger brother, which would be the uncle of the narrator, goes to Boston to study medicine. And their sister, Alexander, this would be the aunt of the narrator. The sister is the one who stays on Finch's Landing. Remember, men used to be the ones that stayed on there. This time she's a woman and she's the one that stays on there. And it says that she marries this man who basically used to just waste his time lying on a hammock. All right, which obviously shows us that she married a lazy man. So, brother of Atticus studied medicine. Sister stayed on Finch's landing and married a lazy man. Basically, that's what happened, okay? Okay. So my father was admitted to the bar, so he obviously made it, and he returned to Macomb, Alabama, all right? And that's where he began his practice. And Macomb is about 20 miles east of Finch's Landing. So maybe you want to picture like going from our school to the Garden State Plaza. It's about 20 miles, okay? So it wasn't really super far. And he was the county seat of Macomb County. He had an office that was in the courthouse, and it wasn't a big fancy office, but it did what it had to do. And his first two clients that he ever had were the last two people that were hanged in Macomb County Jail. So obviously, he doesn't have the best, I guess, record, if you want to call it that. But really, it was because the state gave him these people that he had to defend, and they were guilty to second-degree murder. And he tried to defend them and tell them, hey, take the plea. But they were like, no, we're going to say that we're not guilty to first-degree murder, even though everybody knew that they were. So then they were put to death, to be hanged. So then her father had a distaste. That means he didn't like criminal law. So then he said after that, he kind of practiced economy. So he kind of did like the other lawyering stuff, not like the courtroom lawyering stuff. And he was also paying for his brother's education, which is a pretty big deal. And his brother's name is John Hale Finch. Okay? So up here, this just gives us info about Atticus as a lawyer. Okay? And it also told us about the Haverfords. And you notice that they talk about the Haverfords like they're well known. I don't know how many of you guys know this when you go to a small town, like everybody knows everybody, or their families at least. Like back in the day, family names had um, a lot of strength to them. So it's basically the kind of small town that they live in. Okay, uh, they have a reputation, and the town knows all about them. There you go. All right. John Hale Finch is going to be the narrator's uncle that is studying medicine. Okay. But Atticus had a reasonable income from law. He also liked Macomb. He liked where he was. He liked the people. Um, all of that stuff was important for him. I'm trying to delete this, guys. It's not working. Okay. Well, anyway. And the interesting part about the town, he says, is that he was basically related by blood or marriage to nearly every family. That shows us what kind of small town it is, right? This right here is a really interesting section because it tells us a very clear description of what Macomb was. Okay, and this is a part that you guys read, that it was an old town, okay? That during rainy weather the streets turned to red slop, that the grass grew on the sidewalks, that the courthouse sagged in the square. It was a tired old town, all right? It was hotter. It was so hot that a black dog suffered on a summer's day. Think about that, a black, when you wear black, it attracts heat Okay, bony mules hitched to Hoover carts flicked flies in the sweltering shade of the live oaks on the square. Hoover carts. Remember we talked about Hoovervilles? These are basically the homeless people that were walking around with carts. And it said men's stiff collars. If men who wear like um, button downs, usually it's a stiff collar. But if it gets really hot and you're sweaty, it wilted by 9 in the morning. So think about that. That's like 2 hours that you're up and all of a sudden your shirt is a hot mess because it's so sweaty. Ladies that took a shower before 12 p.m., by 3 o'clock, they needed to take another one because they were gross, basically, okay? Um, People moved slowly then, and everybody took their time. It says that a day was 24 hours long, but it seemed longer. And there was no hurry, for there was nowhere to go. Now, this is very telling about the time frame that we're dealing with. Remember, Great Depression, Dust Bowl, there was nowhere to go, nothing to buy, and no money to buy it with. Nothing to see outside. All right? So this is very telling again. So, detailed description of Macomb. Okay? It's an old town, gets very hot in summer. Okay. Poor town during the Great Depression. Okay. All good. But it was a time of vague optimism, it said, because we had recently been told that we had nothing to fear but fear itself. And that was something that the president had said. Nothing to fear but fear itself. All right. Then we learn a little bit more about where they live, okay? So the narrator lives on a main residential street. Atticus, Gemini, plus Calpurnia are cook, okay? So if you think about what we learned in the web quest back in the day, like this person is a lawyer, all right, in the South. So if they're a lawyer in the South, think about what race they probably are. They're probably a white family, and they have a cook, Calpurnia. What race do you think the cook Calpurnia is? Okay, think about logically what that might be based on what we said. So we've got the family, Finches, Atticus, Gem, narrator. They're gonna put white family. Okay, for white family, they probably have a black cook. All right, it tells us a little bit here about Calpurnia, right? Calpurnia was something else, all right? Her hand was wide as a bad slut and twice as hard. Why would she know how hard her hand was? She's probably gotten hit by her a couple times because she's mischievous, right? Our battles were epic and one-sided. Calpurnia always won. So this narrator, whenever she argued with Calpurnia, she always lost because Atticus always took her side, right? She had been with us ever since Jem was born, so she had been with them for a very long time. Okay. She felt her tyrannical presence. Tyrannical meaning like, oh, intense and yells at her. Our mother died when I was 2, so we just found out a lot of stuff right there. Okay, this is a description of, I'm going to call her Cal, all right? She sounds tough, right? Let's see. Atticus takes her side. Oh, mother dies. Mother dies. at narrator's age 2. Okay. And then it talks to us a little bit about Atticus. Atticus met her. He was middle-aged. She was 15 years younger than him. Okay. Jem was a product of their first year marriage. 4 years later, I was born, and 2 years later, our mother died of a sudden heart attack. All right. They said it ran in her family. I did not miss her, but I think Jem did because obviously Jem was 4, 5, 6. Jem was 6 when she died, so the narrator does not remember her. Let's see. When I was almost 6 and Jem was nearly 10, our summertime boundaries were Mrs. Henry Lafayette de Beau's house, the Radley place. So these are neighbors' houses. So when they used to play in the summer, this is how far they could go. I don't know if you guys remember being young and being told like, "Hey, don't go past so and so's house. Make sure that I can see you," that kind of thing. Oh boy, guys, sorry. So neighbor's house. Ugh. Sorry. Okay. So here they are, and they tell us that the Radley place was inhabited by an unknown entity. So this is, remember we heard the Radley name in the beginning of the first page, that Boo Radley name? I wonder if this is where that person lives, right? Boo Radley. And then Mrs. DeBose was playing hell. So this is some unpleasant lady right here. All right. That was the summer Dill came to us. So Dill came to them when she was almost 6 and Jem was almost 10. So the narrator is 4 and Jem is 9, right? 9. They were 4 years apart, so I think the fact that she was almost, I'm sorry, the narrator is 5. And Jem is 9 when they meet Dill. Okay, so this is how they begin their day. Next door to their house was Miss Rachel Haverford's collard patch. You guys know what collards are, right? Those vegetables. And if you don't know, you can go ahead and Google that. If I can get you a picture, I will. They wanted to see if there was a puppy, but instead of a puppy, they found a kid. All right, and he was sitting in this collar patch. He said, "Hey, hey, yourself." And the kid's name is Charles Baker Harris. And he starts off by saying that he can read. And he's like, "So what?" He's like, "I just thought that you should know I can read." And then Jem kind of sees him, and he must be small because he says to him that he's 4.5. He's 4.5. And he's like, "No, I'm not 4.5. I'm going on 7." So see, he's getting older. He's like, "Oh, no wonder then." Okay. And he's like, "Well, Scout's been reading ever since she was born." So there he is. He's like, "I'm little, but I'm old." So that's a description right there of Dill. So Dill's full name is Charles Baker Harris. He's about to be 7, so he's technically 6. All right, and he's 6. He can read. All right, and so he's like, "Oh well, I know what your name is. Your name is Jeremy Atticus Finch." So we find out Jem's full name right here. Jem's full name. Okay. And then this is where he tells us the folks call me Dill, so now we know that his name is Dill. And he asks him, or the narrator asks him, "Where'd you come from?" And he's like, he was from Meridian, Mississippi. So remember, Mississippi is very close to Alabama. And it says that he's spending the summer with his aunt, Miss Rachel, and that he would be coming to Macomb every summer, okay, from now on. And that his family used to be from Macomb. Oh gosh, guys, sorry. And that his mother worked for a photographer in Meridian. And that he got his picture entered in a beautiful child contest. He won $5. All right, so he starts talking about how she gave the money to Dill, and Dill went to a picture show 20 times. All right, so the fact that he talked about a picture show, which, in case you guys don't realize, is a movie, right? We find out that that got Jem's interest. Okay, here this tells us about where Dill came from, and he will be coming every summer. Okay. Okay, so this is the end of this video, and you're going to continue watching the second video. So there are two videos that you guys will be watching for homework today. Both will count as a quiz grade. Please do your best. Thank you. Make sure that all these notes that are on this video and the next video are on your Kami document too. Thanks.